Welcome back. Now, Barloworld is looking to the future as a privately held company after its successful buyout and delisting from the JSE. Management says the shift away from public markets will enable faster decision-making and a stronger long-term focus. So, what does this mean in practice for strategy, investment and growth? Company CEO Dominic Sewela joins us now for greater insight. Dominic, thanks so much for your time today. Perhaps let's start with the significance of this move, right? The takeover marks a major shift not only for Barloworld, but for you as well, moving from an exec role, well, still in the exec role, but now playing a bigger part when it comes to ownership and being part of the shareholding within that company. Talk to me about the importance of that move and what it signifies for you as a personal moment.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think for me, it's also about legacy. When you look at the Barloworld business, I mean, from a family point of view of the Barlow family, it has been a legacy business which transitioned to be run by our professionals. And I think it's important in the context of South Africa that we see many more businesses that are operator run that could become operator owned, and that is very significant. And also being able to get partners that will partner with you to ensure that you can retain the business in South Africa, because Barloworld is a South African company. It plays in different markets, and therefore it is very important that we can also domicile as most of the business here. So that for me was very important. But on the other hand, is that doing a delisting required one to raise capital and also unlock value for those shareholders that own the asset. And I think you can see that having successfully delisted, it means the shareholders were very happy with the value that they've received. And I think for me that's very important. Part of importance though is also that we're in business to satisfy customers. And the only way to satisfy customers, you're going to have good employees. So I think on that level, our ability to respond to the needs of our customers quicker, because I'm now 24/7, very close to the customer as opposed to attending to market-related issues. That is very important. But also our employees get the kind of support where we invest in them and our customer long-term as opposed to short-term. That's very important because we can take a view on whether we pay dividend in one particular year vis-a-vis saying we're taking a long-term investment on our customers or the development of our employees.
And you touch on something I wanted us to get into, because often when there are companies that delist, there's anxiety that comes around that. Walk me through how then you've been able to navigate that, especially when it comes to reassuring employees, to reassuring your customers as well.
Obviously with a transaction like this, which was regulated, I think it was very difficult at the beginning when our employees would be reading articles or seeing commentary being made on TV, and in a way, I couldn't respond to that. But as soon as one was able to, the latter part of last year, I engaged and I went on a road show, to talk one-on-one with our employees to make sure what it means, and to know that I'm the same, individual that has been their CEO for the last 9 years, so that's one thing. It's comforting as opposed to if they brought in, a different shareholder. But also to the customers, though, the customers are saying, "Are you going to cut back? What's the focus?" Because it's a leverage buyout. There's a huge amount of debt that you still have to service. But that element of talking to customers, giving them the rationale of this transaction was very important, and I continue to do so. And I think, I can see the benefit, already with me engaging with the customers and actually also listening to what the problems are. Not that my team can't solve, but I think it makes it easy when I also understand the problem, to deal with it. And we got two main shareholders, myself, my family and I, as well as, the Zahid family. It makes it simpler. You don't have to deal with varied shareholders that got different, investment style and demands. So yeah, I guess that's very significant, and our employees have appreciated that, and I think they were quite relieved that the strategy of the company, it hasn't changed.
Just talking about the different shareholders, I wanted to get your thoughts around the structure, right? The group, of course, majority black owned by your family, Entsha, holding a 51% stake. How important was that, considering that making sure the company aligns with those BEE regulations was quite important when it came to the PIC agreeing to the takeover?
Yeah, I guess, the notion of BEE, as it relates to how other people interpret it, I think when you look at me, there's no, question of who am I. So, but, you have this noise around, BEE, so I think fundamentally what was important, because if you talk about economic empowerment, economic empowerment really boils down to having access to capital. Secondly, you got to have, know-how and deep skills and experience. So I think when you look at my track record, being a Black South African, the biggest challenge one would have is having access to capital. Fortunately, because I've been in business for so long, I have some kind of capital that I could go to Standard Bank and leverage that. And it was rather unfortunate that a few people decided to put a spin, to this notion around BEE. Barloworld has always been committed in terms of its broad-basedness with the foundation. Currently, when you look at, the intention from the get-go was important that I include, our employees in transaction, as well as management in the transaction. But fortunately, the commission, the competition commission agreed with us. I think at the end, we basically reached an agreement with the PIC, which was always there as an intent. Because it's always important that you think from an impact when you make this investment, that you do impact a broad base of people. Because the concentration of capital, in one individual doesn't transform people's lives. And one is mindful of that. I guess in the end, the transaction has got a hallmark of what many people can appreciate about what BEE has evolved and come out to be. Because in the early 90s, I was involved in the early stages of the BEE companies, but thank goodness one has graduated, and has amassed, enough capital to do something bigger. And I think as people in South Africa, we need to appreciate that BEE as a concept is not stagnant, because in the end, you've got to have an outcome where you produce, black people that have got the wherewithal of running bigger, owning bigger, businesses, because that's how we're going to also transform this, the economy of South Africa.
All right, quickly before I let you go, talk to me about the road ahead for Barloworld. What are some of the pillars of Barloworld's strategy in the next phase?
Fundamentally, the next phase, what's core, is really our equipment business. And I think, in my tenure, we've basically weed off all the other businesses. And that's where the strategy is going to be. We'll still retain, our ingrained business, because it does counter cyclicality of our equipment business. So I think fundamentally there's going to be that. And in the short term, from a capital allocation, most of it's going to go towards that.
All right, Dominic, thank you so much for your time, just walking us through that deal and what's ahead for the company. That was Dominic Sewela, CEO of Barloworld.